Hello everyone. Today I want to talk about my memory of my last death. I actually have a vivid memory of it. I'm not going to detail on that, but before I start, I want to say I do not believe in any specific religion. I do not believe in any specific deities. And I'm not trying to convince anyone, like, oh yeah, this is, what's happening. Like, you believe me or not, I don't care. This is my experience, and I just wanted to put it out there. If it helps you understand yours, then good. That's all. That's all it is. So to me, it started like my first vivid memory. Like I'll start with what happened in this life. In order. Chronological order. So my first vivid memory, my first conscious memory. Essentially, I woke up that morning and I was aware, if you will, and I remember it. I was 3 years old, like 3.5 or something years old, and I woke up. I was alone in the room at that point because I have a sister, and I just remember being so angry. I was angry. I was pissed off, and I just knew that that anger was justified, but I didn't know why I was angry. It was just sort of like, mm, just, oh, so angry. And I even took a minute before leaving the room, which wasn't. It's not something you do normally when you're like 3 years old. Um, so yeah, like I took a minute to sort of understand those feelings. And anyway, like I gave my mom a little bit of a hard day that morning, but whatever. Um, and from that moment on, I had a lot of very vivid dreams that I remember. Like every time I had one of those dreams, like no, no, this is important. There's something about that dreams that's important. It's actually a known fact. Well, there's a lot of testimonies of people that their children or these kids themselves, like they remember dreams once they're older. Um, it's like children are more in touch with the spiritual world, and I think it has something to do with sort of the mental barrier that we put up as we grow up, as we create our preconceptions, and kids don't have that, so kids are more in touch. There's also a theory where it's because kids were born recently ish, you know. Um, but yeah, like I was gifted with the ability of memory of small details. So I remember a lot of these dreams in very small details. I was very lucky about that. And in my case, like when you have a dream, if you're just thinking, oh, that was a weird dream, and you dismiss it, you'll forget it. It's gonna take about 10 minutes. You won't even remember what it was about. Or you can write it down, and then you read your writing, and it's like, that doesn't make any sense. Um, but I found that if you have a dream and then you think this dream is important, in my case at least, I'll remember the dream. Like it's kind of like, oh yeah, that was important. I'll register it in actual me- sorry, in actual memory or something like that. Um so yeah, one of the biggest dream that I had growing up, something that was recurrent somewhere between the that moment, so age of 3 to I think age of 6 or 7. I dreamt at least 12 times that I was falling, and most of the time I was falling into a black hole or whatever. And I knew that I was dying as I was falling, and then I was terrified the adrenaline would kick in and I would wake up. As I understand, this is kind of a common theme. A lot of people are dreaming about that, but I can't tell you about other people's dreams. I can only tell you about mine. The only thing is, when I would fall like that, I would know this is important. There's a reason why I'm dreaming about that. And like I said, when I was 6 or 7, at some point I had one of those dreams. Like I was essentially, yeah, like so one day I had one of those dreams, and then the next day, when I was about to fall asleep, the next night, um, like I was in bed and was just looking at the ceiling and was thinking, why do I keep having those dreams? Because they're really they are unpleasant dreams, obviously. So why do I keep having those dreams? What's up with that? And I just sort of, I wouldn't say heard a voice in my head, but sort of had a response in my head. I'm thinking maybe it's my subconscious that replied to my consciousness, if you will. And it wasn't even a word, it was more like a general feeling of. Oh, what's up? So yeah, it was sort of a general feeling of okay, like of acknowledgement, yeah. And I fell asleep. Now, when you have a dream that you remember, it's like when you have an important dream essentially that you remember, it's most of the time it's going to be the first dream right as you fall asleep. Like if you sleep maybe 10, 15 minutes, you can have a dream right there that you're going to remember, or the last dream before you wake up. That's usually those dreams that you can remember, like as long as as you wake up right after the dream. And the reason why they're often important is because there's a state as you fall asleep or and as you wake up that you're sort of like in between awake and not. So your consciousness and there's like a natural barrier between the consciousness and subconsciousness to not be overwhelmed so that you only receive relevant info, and that barrier sort of drops. That's what they use in hypnosis, you know. Um so yeah, like I fallen asleep and immediately I had a dream, and then immediately afterward I woke up, and at the time I didn't fully understand the dream because I was still too young. There were elements in the dream that I didn't even know what it was. Um, like for example, one of the dreams where I was falling when I was, I want to say 5 or 4. There was a scaffolding in it, and I didn't know what a scaffolding was. I never seen one in my life at that point. I just thought, well, that's an interesting structure. I have no idea what it is. Um, so in that dream, when I'm gonna go ahead and say 7. That full dream with all the info. Um, there was multiple elements in it that I didn't know, that I didn't understand yet. Uh, but even though, like, even since I didn't know that, I was still able to remember the dream fully in great detail, and I thought, this is it, this is the answer. I just don't know what it means, but I need to remember it, and yeah, I remembered every single detail about it. Um, So at some point, it sort of popped in my mind when I was 13 years old. It popped in my mind like, oh shit, I remember that. And like, oh wow, now I understand it. This is what it means. Oh, okay, yeah, now it makes sense. So I'm gonna tell you what the dream was, obviously. um, the dream was, it was like late summer, early fall, 1985. I was born in this life in 1986, fall of 1986. So about a year happened in between those two events. Um, I was a I was in charge on a construction site. We were renovating a five-story high building. Like essentially we were replacing the bricks on the tops, like on the side of a wall at the top, just replacing those bricks. And there was a scaffolding. hmm Getting licked. Oh, okay. There you go. All right. So as I was saying, there was a scaffolding. The building was five-story high. The scaffolding was essentially five-story high as well. And you had like maybe of uh, half a story in between the roof of the building and the top floor of the scaffolding. And that was one of those flat roof, flat building, flat roof building that you have like a commercial district or something like that. Um, and this was on a relatively busy street, which means there were people walking downstairs on the sidewalk. And that was at the end of the day. Like I could see the sun starting to set. Um, and yeah, so I was in charge at that construction site, and I remember that there was one employee with me. Now, the guy was tired, hungry. Like sometimes when you work hard all day, physical labor, you get mentally and physically exhausted, and he wasn't all there in his mind. And I was tired too, like I was kind of angry, like can we just go home? Um, and the guy forgot tools and equipment and stuff on the scaffolding. Now, like I said, this is a street that's relatively busy. There's people walking below. We, like, back then there wasn't as much security and rules and regulations kind of thing. So there wasn't any net or something like that. If something was to fall, someone could have been injured, someone could have been killed. I was thinking lawsuit and stuff like that. Um, and it was one of those, you have like the building, then you have the scaffolding, and then you have the sidewalk below. So there was like a little bit of asphalt in between where the scaffolding was, basically. So it's not like people were under the scaffolding. That would have actually been safer. But yeah, like, so if something was to fall, yeah, definitely someone could have been injured. I wasn't worried for like a brick falling, but there were tools. Tools could have fallen with the wind or whatever. Um, so I tell the guy to just, stay back, I'll deal with it. And I guess because of the tone of my voice, he felt bad because I was, pissed. So the guy didn't stand back. He was insisting to help. Oh, he's the one who messed up. He's the one who wants to fix it. Um, and I'm thinking, this is 5 story high. I'm not wearing like a hard hat. I'm not wearing any security equipment. I was in regular clothes, not not even like construction clothes. So like I'm not. I was ready to leave basically. So I'm just like, I just want to grab stuff, and the guy insists this thing. So I'm like, okay, well, here, stay there on the roof. I'll pass you the things from the scaffolding. You can put it a little bit further out on the roof once it's past the ledge. And of course, the guy didn't listen. So the guy climbs down on the scaffolding with me. So I'm like, okay, well, just be careful. Because, this is 2 planks of wood, and then you can fall off. um, and the guy wasn't careful, so he knocked me down. Now, here's the thing. I had a tool in my right hand. My right hand was my good hand. One of those manual tool. I can't tell what the tool was. I just remember holding it by the handle. That's all I remember. It's the handle in my hand. So it could have been like a screwdriver that could have been used to scrape off in between the bricks. It could have been one of those things that you use to spread the concrete in between the bricks. I don't actually know. I'm not in construction in this life, so I have no idea what it was. It was a tool. Um, and I grab onto the scaffolding, to the plank of the scaffolding. I grab onto the ledge with both hands, but I'm holding the tool with. I'm holding, let's say, I'm holding the tool in my hand, and so I don't have a good grip with this hand. So this is the only hand that can actually grip the scaffolding. And like I said, there's people below, so I can't let go. If I let go of that, someone might get hurt. There wasn't a lot of people, but you just I couldn't take a moment, look down, make sure. Like, what if the tool fell and hit the scaffolding and bounced off in a weird way? So I'm holding on, and I tell the guy, just grab the tool so I can pull myself up. And the guy tries to grab my hand. I'm like, no, grab the tool, not my hand, grab the tool. And then I'm thinking, oh my god, if he grabs the tool, this is the scaffolding, there's multiple structures going down. My foot, I can grab the next part below, and I can, climb down, climb back up, whatever. I'll be fine as long as he just grabs a tool, because I don't really have a good, like I can't do anything right now. And the guy, instead of grabbing the tool from my right hand, grabs my left arm. Not even my hand, my arm. He grabs my left arm and he starts pulling me up. Now, because he didn't grab my hand, like if he grabbed my hand, I could have, grabbed his, and together we could combine strength. No, he grabs my arm, so I'm at his mercy, basically. And the guy is tired and exhausted, so he slips and drops me. And so I start falling, and at that point I just drop the tool from my hand, and I try to grab something. One of my foot hit one of the structure of the scaffolding. It pushed me away and made me flip slowly, and I fell essentially 4 story high, like from 4 story high, because it was, so my feet were a little bit lower. Head first on the sidewalk, just block. The death was so quick. I it was like a fraction of a second. I barely felt it. Like I didn't really feel it. I sort of have the memory of there was pain, but I don't even remember the pain itself. It was just instant death. Um, and then here's the interesting part and all that. Like, I mean, the whole thing I think is interesting already, but here's the interesting part is I remember what happened after that. I was actually outside my body and was standing on the sidewalk. I'm sure that I could have just passed through whatever as, not a physical entity. But I'm guessing this is sort of like you're remembering standing on things, so you're just standing on things. Maybe. Um, I can't really tell in great details for that part. But I do remember, yeah, I was standing next to my body. There was two old ladies that were walking by that, like, nobody got hurt in the accident. The tool fell next to me. I could see my body. I could see that tool that I was holding on, and another, I think it was a piece of rope that fell next to that. But yeah, nobody was injured except me. And so yeah, two old ladies were passing by and just sort of stopped, being kind of like a little bit in shock, a little bit confused by what just happened. Cause like I died like what 5-10 meters away from them, something like that. Um, and I think the most interesting part here is I wasn't alone. There was another presence. I would say like a female presence. Now I wouldn't describe that as like an angel or whatever, like religion. The way that I would see it is she was sort of like in charge of my case, sort of like a guide kind of thing. Um, and I was so angry I couldn't just leave. And I told her that I wanted to see the trial to the end. So the trial, as in, the guy was going to get trialed, and I wanted him to go to prison for like 6 months because of criminal negligence, or, you know. Um, and so I stuck around, and I remember the courtroom, and the guy got a year. It wasn't exactly what I wanted, but it was good enough. Like, uh, if he had maybe 2 or 5 years, I would kind of have been, no, that's too much. But it's not as if I could have done anything. I was just a spirit there or whatever. Like, I was dead. Like, what the hell you want me to do? But yeah, I was just sticking around. I guess I just needed to see it to digest my feelings a little bit. And after that, I was like, okay, I'm ready. And the next memory that I have is looping back to what I was saying earlier, the memory of me as 3-year-old being very angry. Which, that explains why I was angry that day. Um, and yeah, like, this still, it haunted me for a while. Like I had the full understanding of the dream. Like after I had the full dream, I stopped dreaming of falling. Once I had the full understanding, it sort of falling in dreams sort of came back a little bit as a, I guess, post-traumatic experience or something. Um, and and at some point, I think I was like 15 or something. I went like I was falling in a dream, and I kind of had this feeling of, no, okay, that's enough. And instead, in my dream, I fell on my foot, and I stopped dreaming about falling after that. I was able to move on, basically. Um, so what I know from this is, first off, death is not death is not the end. Um, there's something more. But at the same time, death, like if you have like a shitty life or something, death is not an escape. It's not a solution. Um, because there are consequences of dying. Like, you keep your baggage with you. If you're not dealing with your problems in this life, you're gonna have to deal with them sooner or later. Like it took me more. I can't even tell how many years until I was no longer angry at people who are um like at least 30 years. I don't remember when I actually stopped hating people who are unaware of their surroundings. Like I had a deep hatred for people who were unaware of their surroundings, of others, you know, like, oh, sorry, I didn't realize you were there. In my mind, that was like, I want to punch you in the face, like, mm. But, like, yeah, it took me many, many years for that to pass. And that was obviously from what happened with that guy who w- didn't realize that I was right there and made me fall off the scaffolding. He didn't realize that he never really took in consideration my situation. Like, I can do this, I can do that. So in his mind, it was him alone. You know. Uh, but that being said, now that I've actually got over that frustration, that hatred, um, like I understand the guy was just tired. The guy was just exhausted. It's not his fault. Accidents happens. We're all humans. Um, and sometimes when the subconscious just gives you an info without the explanation, so you just know something, you can't explain why you know it. One thing that I know is that you have multiple lives, and that life is sort of like a self growth, learning experience, development. I can't really, like, what are you training for? What are you developing for? I don't know. But that's how I understand life. And when you're ready, when you're fully developed, that's when you can leave. And I actually was aware. Um, I think from the moment that I had the dream, I was aware that this is actually my last life. That I'll finally end the cycle. I don't know what's coming after that. I know it's not the end, but it's my last physical life. And yeah, sadly I won't be able to relay the info of what happens after that, but yeah. So yeah, it's not the first time that I tell people that experience, and I still remember, all the small details, like the exact color of the bricks, the position of the sun in the sky, the you know right, I forgot to say it was like somewhere in the north of the USA. I can't tell exactly which state because I don't know. Like, I don't live in the USA now. I live in Canada. So, yeah, like there's all these things. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. Sorry about that. Oh, got distracted by Harry.